In this lecture, let us understand how to chain promises. So in our last lecture, we have completely understood how fetch function will be working and which all method will be returning promise. Now in this, we will be using our old API, that is REST countries API, and using this, first we will fetch country data, and based on that country, we will be fetching the borders data. So here simply I will be writing fetch. Now to get this URL, just come to your browser and type REST countries and open this first link. I will just scroll down, and from here I'm just going to select this link. I will copy this where I am having this name, copy, and inside this I am going to paste. And from here I will remove this name. Instead I will be writing India. Now this fetch function will be returning promise. As of now, we will assume our promise is fulfilled and successfully we are able to get the result. So here we will be using then, and inside that we will be passing this callback function, and our body will be readable stream. So to access that data, we will be using this response.json. Basically, we are passing that data, and this JSON method will also return promise. So this entire explanation in detailed manner I have explained you in the last lecture. So if you want, you can watch that last lecture to understand more about fetch function. Then again, as this is returning promise, and again we will assume it is successful. So we are going to handle using then method, and finally whatever resolve value we get from this then method, we will access that and we are just going to display that. Here I will be writing data, and from here I will remove semicolon, save it. Now inside this console I am able to access this to data. So whatever data is matching to India, I am able to access that data. Okay, this is very simple. Easily I am able to access this India data. Now what I want, based on this data, I just want to access borders data. So before that, let me just wrap this entire thing inside one function. Above this, I will be creating function. I will give my function name as getCountry. Inside this, I will be passing this parameter country name. Open curly braces, and inside this function, I'm just going to pass this entire logic. I will copy this parameter. Now here, I will be using template literal, and instead of this India, I will just pass this parameter. So when we call this function, here I can give this parameter and I will be having the same result. You can see I got the same result. Now let us see how to chain promises. So here if you see, we have already chained the promise. Using this fetch function, we got the promise. We have chained using then method. And again using this JSON, we got the promise. Again we have used then method. Now we will just go to another level, and based on this country data, we are going to change the promise and we will just access border for India. So basically what I want to do, the second fetch what I will be doing, that should be dependent on first fetch. Okay, let us see how that will be working. Now inside this then method, whatever value we got from this then method, that we are accessing and we are just storing inside this then method, and our entire data will be stored inside this data variable, and we got this result. Now I will remove this console. Instead I will be using blocks. Now when we are using blocks inside arrow function, we have to return something. And now what I want to do, from this data, okay, it is giving me array of object. I just want to access this second object, because inside this first object we are not having borders property. So that is the reason I will go to this second object. So how we will do? We will do array destructuring. I will write here const. First one I don't want to access, but second one I want to access. So simply I will be writing first country here. Accordingly, you can give the name, and from where I am accessing, I'm just accessing from data array. Now here I will be logging this. I will copy this variable, paste it. Now if I save, you can see I am able to access second object from that array, because here I have done array destructuring and I am just accessing second object from my final data. Now what I want, based on this India country, I just want to access the border. Now inside this border, I am having 6 data. If I open, you can see I am having Bangladesh, Bhutan, Myanmar, China, Nepal and Pakistan. Now what I want, I just want to access this first data from borders. So below this, I will be creating one variable. I will give my variable name as neighbor. So from this object, I will copy. From this object, I just want to access this borders property. So to access any property from object, we will be using dot operator. And from here, I just want to access this index 0. So here I will be writing index 0. But for some countries, we will not be having borders. So here we can use optional chaining. I will just write here question mark dot. Now let me show you the result. I will write here log. Now you can see first border, that is Bangladesh. So using this code, what I am trying to access? I am trying to access the first country, that is Bangladesh. Now if I save, you can see I got the result as BGD, which stands for Bangladesh. Okay, do not get confused. Inside this then method where we displayed our data, we are just accessing the border, whatever country we have given. According to that, I just want to access the border. Now if I give here China, whatever border we are having for China, according to that border will be displayed. Okay, let me just give India. But now, if you are not aware of this optional chaining, what you can do, let me just remove this optional chaining. I will comment this out. Simply, I will be writing, if neighbor is not there, then simply return nothing. Let me just write here return. Save it. Now you can see it has not returned me anything. Now if I print this neighbor, I will be having BGD, because for this we are having BGD. Okay, we can also do in this way, but as of now, I will not be using this. Instead, I will be using this optional chaining, because this is more modern way of accessing the properties. Once I am having this neighbor data, now using this neighbor data, I just want to fetch neighbor country. So again I will come here, because using this neighbor we got code, and for code we are having this link. I will copy, and from this then method I have to return something. Only then I will be able to chain another then method. So here I will be writing return. Inside this we will be using fetch template literal, pass the link, and from here I will just pass this neighbor code, copy and paste. Here I will be writing dollar. Okay, simple. Do not get confused. So using this fetch function, whatever promise we got, we assumed it was success, and using this response, we got entire data related to response. And now to pass that readable string, we have used this JSON method, and this JSON method is also promise. So to get the result value, we are just using another then method. Now inside this then method, based on that country neighbor, we are just fetching this data. As we already know, fetch function will always return promise. Now again, let us assume everything is fine and successfully we are able to fetch the data. So again, what we have to do? We have to use then method here. Okay, do not use or do not just chain like this. Okay, it will be wrong. I will be telling you the reason. But instead, after this then method, we should be passing this then method again. In this way, we are going to chain. Here I am using fetch, but here you can see after fetch directly I am using this then method. But if I do here, what happens? It will be like inside this one callback function, I am trying to call another callback function. So that will lead to callback hell. So that is the reason we will not be chaining in this way. So after this then method, once we return this fetch, so inside this then we will be performing our operation. So again using this fetch, here I will be writing response, same process. Again I have to use JSON method to pass the data. Before that, let me just log and show you the response. I will just remove this. I will write here console.log, and inside this I will be printing response. Save it. Come here. Now you can see using this fetch function, I am able to get the response. Now what I will do, I will remove this. I will be writing response.json, and this will be returning promise. Now again I have to chain after this complete then method. Then now finally I will be passing the data. Okay, same process I have repeated. Log, and inside this I will be passing data. Let me just see, and from here I will be removing semicolon. Refresh. Now you can see only Bangladesh data I am able to access. And if you see here related to Bangladesh, whatever data I will be having in that object, entire thing will be displayed. So this is India data and this is my Bangladesh data. So once I am able to access the country, only based on that country I am able to access that border. From this then method, whatever resolve value we are having, we are just accessing and we are displaying here. So this is how we are going to change the promise. First, we are having this fetch function which will be returning promise, and as of now we are assuming everything is fine. So using this then method, we are handling that promise, and the data we will be having in readable stream which we cannot access. So using this JSON method, we are parsing the data, and again this is going to return promise. So to handle that, we will be using then method, and inside that, whatever resolve value we get from this, we will be accessing inside this then method. But inside this then method, we are just fetching the first country data and we are displaying neighbor of that country which we have called. And again, to get that country, again we have to fetch the data using this URL. And again, this is going to return the promise and we will be chaining here. And from here, again, we have to access the response. We have to pass the data and finally we have to get the result. So now you can see, instead of callback help, we can simply use this flat chain of promises. If I just use this then method after this one, after this fetch, then we will end up with callback help. But we already know promises are the solution for callback help. So we don't have to include callback help in our function. But even if I do here, it will be working. Let me just copy this entire thing. And here I will be pasting, save it. You can see again I will be having the same result. But the problem is we have ended with callback help. Why? Because here we are having then method. Inside this I am having callback function. Then again we are returning this fetch. Then again inside this we are having callback function. So inside one callback function, we are having multiple callback functions again. So that is the reason we will end up with callback help. So most of the time people get confused and they will directly attach here. Do not do that mistake. If you are a beginner and if you are not understanding, that's completely fine. But this logic you should understand regarding callback help. You can repeat this process as many times you need. You can fetch the border of this country. Again, you can fetch the border of country. But at the end, we will not be ending with callback help. As I mentioned in last lecture, using promises, we will not get rid of callback functions. Instead, we will get rid of callback help. Next lecture, we will see how to display this data on browser.